What is up, everyone? I hope you're doing well. This is Matt from Made with Matt. And in this last video of the series, we will be figuring out how to get this bottom drawer to show up, add this interactable button here and another button here, similar to what we did in the first design video where we designed this app. So if you're new to the channel and new to this series, in this series, we're converting this Figma design that we created previously into a React Native app. And that's what a lot of this channel is. I'm trying to make learning React Native as simple as possible for you guys. So tons more tutorials coming and tons more of videos like this. So in the previous two videos, we created this albums page, and we also created this shared album page, which is really cool. Now in this last video, we'll get this set up really quickly and really easily. So let's jump into it. If this is the first video you see, you could find this Figma file in the link below and copy it. And I'd also recommend going to part 1 to get started with the GitHub starter template to get you up and running really quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and get my Expo project running. And I have my simulator already open on the right here. So let me close this. I'm going to click I, opening on iOS. If you're running this locally and you have your phone with you, you could also just scan this QR code to get the app running on your phone. So awesome. We have what we had from the last video, the shared album page here, and then also all the albums. And now we'll want to go add that button. So we can navigate to components, albums.js, and this is where we're going to start adding in that button that we want to open up the bottom sheet. So let's get started with the button. What we'll do is we'll need to use the header that is provided to us from React Navigation. And to access that, usually what it is it's one of the options in the header. And then in the options, you could say header right or header left and put in a custom component. So to get those options, we need to set the options. So we'll say navigation, and then in here, set options. Now, that way we could use this function to set whatever we want to the left, right, and basically customize this entire header. So we'll want to do this as soon as the component is mounted onto the screen. And to say that, we'll say use layout effect. And we don't want it from here. We want it from React. So we'll go copy all of this and say React, comma, that. Cool. So use layout effect. Then we'll want a anonymous function in here. And we'll say set options. And in here, we'll say header right, sorry about that. And this is just going to be a component. So we could say touchable opacity and wrap it in that so that it's actually a button. And for now, we could say on press console.log hello. And then in here, let's give it a view. So let's give it a style as well. So styles.openSheet button. And finally in here, let's give it a an icon. So feather, or actually, let's do that after. For now, let's just put text with a plus sign just to keep it very simple, because already all of this could be a lot to get started with. So let's go copy this style, bring it to the bottom here, and get started with it. So we'll want the width to be 32, height to be 32, and the background color to be theme.colors.primary. Now let's save that just to see if it does appear. So there we go. We already have it with our little plus sign in here. So now let's go ahead and place it better. So to do that, let's give it a margin right of theme.spacing.medium. Let's give it a border radius of 16, which is half of this. And let's also, so we could save that. And let's also justify content to be center and align items to be center. That way, everything shows up in the middle. Now we'll go ahead and create this plus icon. So rather than having a text, what we could do is we could import feather. So feather from, and we could say at Expo / vector icons and then / feather. Now in here, we could replace this with feather and say name is equal to the plus. So the plus icon. Size, we could give it a size of 16. And lastly, color, we could say theme.colors.white. And if we save that, there we go. Looks great. One small touch up here, touchable opacity from React Native Gesture Handler. We want this to actually come from React Native. And while we're there, we could also just clean this up. So that looks better. Awesome. Now let's make sure that it's actually working when we press it. So let's open up the console and we should see hello show up a couple times. Let's click it a few more times. Awesome. So it's working. So now comes the fun part where we actually create that bottom sheet that comes up. So to create it, we'll need to import BottomSheet from reanimated BottomSheet. Now I'm going to show you guys where I found this. So let me just open up that and then GitHub. So basically just from going on GitHub, I found this package. So open source, shout out to you for making it. And yeah, I mean, it works great. I just kind of installed it. If you're using Expo, which is great, they have some Expo documentation. And then I basically just copied the implementation that they have in the documentation to get it going. So we'll just go through it similar to what they did. So we see here that we need a bottom sheet, and then we need render content, which is the actual content of the sheet itself. And we also need a reference to it. That way we're able to open or close it by saying snap to from the reference. So let's go ahead and get this working. So we have bottom sheet now at the bottom of our file. So let's put it outside of the scroll view. We'll have our bottom sheet. And then in here, we'll say ref is equal to sheet ref. So this is the reference to the sheet. And at the top, let's actually create that reference. So that's going to be const sheet ref is equal to use ref. And that's going to be imported from React. I'm not sure why it's doing it down here. Let's just copy that, bring it up and delete this. Cool. So that is great. And then we'll want to set some snap points. So what the snap points are the points at which it kind of snaps to the screen. So let's open up their example again. So over here, you can see that this is a snap point, that's another snap point, and then all the way at the bottom is a snap point. So it's kind of like where it just stays, I guess you could call it. So for our project, we'll say 250 and 0, and we'll want the initial snap. So the initial point to be at index 1, so 0. Now we'll also give it a border radius of 10. And then we'll also need to render the content. So for now, we'll leave this blank, but let's go ahead and build that out. So since we want to be using reusable components, let's create a new component here, which is going to be, oh, sorry about that. So this new component is going to be BottomSheetContent.js. And let's just set this up. So BottomSheetContent, save that. And just to get a visual on it, we'll create a view here with a text saying, I am a bottom sheet. So let's just make sure to import our views and texts from React Native, save that. And then in albums over here, we'll say render content and we'll create a function. So let's go create that function first. So we could place it right over here. Const render bottom sheet content is going to be equal to bottom sheet content, like that. And let's make sure to import it. So import bottom sheet content from bottom sheet content. And all this is doing is it's saying, you call this function and it renders this item. So let's copy this, plop it in, save that. And let's see if we get any errors. All good, awesome. So now if we want to see it, while we're creating it, let's change the initial snap point to 0, which is going to be the 0th index over here. And let's go see if we can see it. So right now there won't be anything because we need to start adding some styles to it. So let's create the styles. So style sheet dot create. And we'll give this view a style, styles dot bottom sheet, or let's just say content wrapper, since we're already in the bottom sheet component. So content wrapper. Let's give it a background color, a theme. So if it doesn't auto import, once again, just import it on top here. Theme dot colors dot light gray. Let's give it some padding as well. So theme.spacing.m, and let's give it a height. Now this height is going to need to be the same height that we gave over here in the snap point, so 250. So let's save that. So you may need to reload it, and if you're on your mobile device, you could just shake your phone. Otherwise, you could do Control-Command-Z if you're on the iOS simulator, reload. And now we'll see the bottom sheet, and you can see that you could play around with it. You could drag it to the bottom here and it disappears, but I need it. So I'm going to reload and get it back. So awesome. Now we could go ahead and start editing the bottom sheet. So we'll want 2 buttons in the bottom sheet right over here. So one to create a new gallery and then one to cancel. So let's go make those. So we'll wrap those in touchable opacities, and once again, just delete it from there, get it from React Native. So touchable opacity, let's give it some styling and an on press. So on press, we'll say alert, create a new album. And we could put this on the new line to make it a bit nicer. And here we'll give it a style, styles dot, we'll call this one button title. Awesome. And now in here, we'll have a text. This is going to be create a new album. And actually, let's go copy this style. So button title, my bad. That should be in here. And then in here, we could say button large. So that's the first button. Now the second one, we'll bring it down here. And now this is going to be an alert to close button small instead of large. And in here, it's going to be cancel. Cool. So now let's just go style everything. So I'm holding down the Option key, Command C to copy them, and now pasting them in. Amazing. So let's just tab all of this in. Cool. So now let's just save it to see what it looks like. Create a new album. If we click that on alert, create a new album, cancel, close. Cool. So button large is going to have some margin from the top. Margin top. It's going to be theme dot spacing dot small. It's going to have some horizontal margin as well. Medium. And some padding. So padding vertical is going to be theme.spacing.large. And let's give it a background color of theme.colors.white. Now let's just check out what that looks like. So already looking good. Let's give it some border radius. So border radius is going to be theme.borderRadius.medium. And let's align everything in the center, just like that. Nice. Now, last thing we could add, which we have in the design here, is a bit of shadow in the back, as you can see. So let's go ahead and add that shadow. So shadow color is going to be theme.colors.black. Shadow offset is going to be an object with width 0, height of 2. And we'll have shadow opacity, which is going to be 0.1. Shadow radius of 8. And lastly, elevation for Android devices. There it is, and now we see it show up. So now we could do something very similar for button small. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the style and just change some of the items to make it fit for the smaller button. So for the margin top, we'll change small to medium. Then we'll leave the margin horizontal the same. The padding vertical, we'll change it to medium so it is a bit smaller. There we go. And I think everything else we could leave the same. Yeah, perfect. So now the last thing is just the actual text in the buttons. So using our theme, let's see, theme.text variance.h2. There we go. So now we create a new album, we get an alert, and if we click cancel, it says close. But we should implement it in a way that when we click cancel, it actually closes it. So let's go ahead and get that set up now. So in the albums page, right under the render bottom sheet content, we could create a new function here called close bottom sheet. And what this is going to do is it's going to say sheet ref, which is the reference we created above here for the bottom sheet, dot current, snap to, and we'll say 1. That way it's going to snap to 0, 1, the first index here in snap points, which is 0. And then what we'll also do is we'll pass in this function as a prop to bottom sheet content. So we could say handle close is going to be equal to close bottom sheet. Now, similar to when we were passing in props with like the images and the avatars before, what we're going to need to do now is we go to bottom sheet content and grab it. So this is going to be handle close. And then what we could do is instead of on press alert close, we could just replace this with handle close. And if you save that, now let's click cancel and we see that it closes. Now the only way to make it show is by reloading it, which is a problem. So how we could fix that is do something similar. So instead of close bottom sheet, let's copy this and create open bottom sheet. And instead of snapping to 0, instead of snapping to 1, we'll snap to 0, which is 250. Now we're going to need to run this when we click the button up here. So instead of console log hello, we'll delete that and we'll say open bottom sheet. Save it. So let's close it and now let's open it. Amazing. So now we could either click cancel to close it, or we could fully just drag it down. So everything is working as we wanted it to. Now the last thing that we'll want to do is go set the initial snap point to 1. That way when we reload the app, it starts off as closed, and then we can open it whenever we want, close it, and jump around. So that's it for this series. I hope you enjoyed that. Give yourself a big pat on the back for having completed this. It's a pretty big app UI, so congratulations. I hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know in the comments down below if you enjoy content like this or would rather see something else. And definitely hit that like and subscribe button and that notification bell so that you're updated whenever I release something new. So thanks again. Let me know what you want to see next and have an amazing day.